And welcome back. Here we are. We are now officially in the postseason of the collegiate track and field calendar. And in today's preview video, we're just going to be previewing the major headlines going into conference championship weekend. So the biggest matchups. And this is going to feel very Power Five heavy because that's where a lot of the stories are actually going from. We're going to be looking at the top ranked competitions. And this video at first will be from the men's perspective. We do want to acknowledge the small conferences where there will be interest because if you've been online, you've been seeing SWAC conferences, the MEAC, the young man from Norfolk State, Kai Cole. I actually saw him at the Penn Relays. He was great. And he ran a 10:05 in the 100, just throwing that out there. Shout out to Norfolk State. This will be the last hurrah for the Pac 12, which is shocking because if you just look at its history and the schools in that conference, you're talking about some of the biggest producers of Olympic athletes: USC, UCLA, Stanford, Cal, Washington, Washington State, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado. That conference is going away, and this is the very last hurrah. So I hope it goes out with a bang. So the first matchup we're going to look at is our sprints matchups, and I'm looking at the biggest three matchups within each section. So leg one is the sprints and hurdles, and on the men's side, I'm looking in the 100-meter dash, and we're going to go to the SEC. That's 1 versus 3. That'll be Tamaris McCullum of Tennessee versus Favor Ash of Auburn. This actually may be part of the future of the international sprinting. You're going to have a young American in McCullum and a Nigerian in Ash competing against each other probably for a while. And this is going to be a very interesting matchup. 994 versus 996. In the 100, it really is anyone's game. It comes down to who comes out of the block first and who's able to maintain quality form through a great dry phase. And that's been Ash. He has got a lightning quick start. And I know we've all seen it. It's actually caused him a couple of false starts last year. This year, it's almost like he's reined it in. And having Leroy Burrell as your coach is so clutch because that's probably one of the reasons why he looks so good coming out of the blocks. And Tamaris McCullum is being coached by Dwayne Ross, who was also great out of the blocks himself as a hurdler, but has brought that great coaching from North Carolina A&T to Tennessee. And I think this is going to be a really tight matchup. Part of me wants to lean to Ash because I don't feel like he's really been pushed this year. I look at a lot of the ends of his races and he's very comfortable. And I'm thinking, you know what? He has the 9-8 in him. Whether or not he'll do it remains to be seen. So that to me is the most intriguing matchup in the 100. And the next event we'll look at is the 400. And this is pretty much one guy versus everybody. And that's Christopher Morales Williams of Georgia versus the rest of the SEC. And that's just kind of how I view it. That is a very talented young man. We saw what he did indoors. He broke the indoor world record of 44.4. Unfortunately, because of his blocks, it didn't become a legalized record, which to me is so silly. 44.49, you just can't ignore that. He is the most talented young 400-meter runner I think we've seen in quite a while, since Michael Norman, certainly. And against a really deep field, you have all those great quarter milers at Florida, which to me, they're slowly but surely rounding into the form. You have Raheem Hales, you have Javon Powell, Genoa McIver. All three are capable and have gone under 45 seconds. Recognize that. They have three guys with PRs in the 44 range. And then you have Ashton Schwartzman of Florida. This should indicate I really do think highly of Florida, specifically their 4x4 and outdoor season. They've proven to be superior to their indoor performances. But he'll have that. He'll have Emmanuel Bynum, Tennessee. He'll have Ahmad Robinson, who has literally been on his heels all season long from Texas A&M. This could be Ahmad's, coming out party. You have that video of him on this channel of him anchoring that 4x4 at the Texas relay, or excuse me, the Penn relays. And I said to one of you in the feedback in the comments, he was toying with them the entire race for fun. And then he has that amazing kick. This is a very talented 400-meter runner. It isn't just Christopher Morales Williams. I think Ahmad Robinson really might be the true challenger, but I think there's too many really good 400-meter runners in this race. There's about 6 or 7 guys that'll be running sub 45 already. This could be an entire field of 44 second runners. Maybe this is where we see Christopher get under 44. It may require that. But I think this is going to be a very good race. The Florida guys are going to have extra eyes on them because this is on their home track. And the last big sprint event on the men's side, I think we want to take notice is again in the SEC. Sorry, SEC bias. That's not what I have, but it's just I'm looking at the rankings. The 4x1 in the SEC should be an incredible race. You have 1 versus 2 versus 3 versus 4. Yes, the top 4 in the nation are all in the SEC. They're going to all be in the same heat. That's LSU, Auburn, Kentucky, and Florida. Woo! And LSU has looked solid all year, but Auburn has too. They began the year with a bang, and Auburn has so many great 100-meter guys along with LSU. But you can't ignore what's going on in Kentucky, and you can't ignore what's going on with Florida. And I think Florida kind of really just got their legs under them a couple weeks ago. Things are moving in that direction, and they're going to be on their home track. I think through this race, we'll probably see the new national number one. I'm leaning towards LSU. I just think they have it. And Godson did not run for Nigeria at the World Relays, although I think he'll make the Nigerian team. He saved those legs for the SEC championship, and so I think he could potentially be a dark horse in the 100, but I really want to see what he does as the anchor because he's a great anchor leg. Now moving to our second leg, which will be the distance races. There are 3 really good distance race matchups. And to be fair, there's more than 3. There's a lot. I really went with the top ranked competition in 2 of the events. One, I just think there's too many talented guys, and that's the first race we'll go to. But there's so many great competitions this weekend within the conference championships for many of the distance races. But for the 800, I think the Big 12 is where it's at. And that's Yusuf Bizimana of Texas, a defending national champion, Darius Kipyego of Iowa State, and Finley McClear of Iowa State. I mean, you have top tier guys, all 145 capable, or even 144 for being fair, in one race. I know the SEC is going to have a great under 800 competition. You have Whitmarsh there, but I think the depth and the 800 at the Big 12 is where we'll see a big time mark. That's a phenomenal competition between those 3: Bizimana, Kipyego, and McClear. I'm still waiting for McClear to kind of hit that big mark that he had when he was at Miami of Ohio. I do think the transfer to Iowa State made sense, but I'm really curious to see if he can get past his teammate Kipyego, who's kind of been the bigger guy, especially this outdoor season. But Bizimana has a title in his trophy closet, and I think this is where he starts to push himself back towards the front. He did not have the indoor season I thought he would. I think now is the time where he sort of redeems himself. Don't forget you have Marshall of Iowa in the Big Ten, which I think will also be a great 800 race. In the 1500, I'm going to go to the SEC, and that's Ethan Strand of North Carolina, who was number 4, versus Gary Martin of Virginia, who was number 8. And I saw Martin of Virginia at the Penn Relays, and he held his own in that DMR. He fought tooth and nail, and he also held his own in the 4x mile. That's where things got very, very interesting. He was a very strong anchor leg for Virginia in that 4x mile. It was just too much for him in the end. Villanova was so smart and so tactical. We had, sub 4-minute miles from pretty much every anchor leg. He ran such a great performance. He did push the pace a little, and I think that hurt him in the end because I think Villanova just let him rabbit him. But I think Gary Martin is a very competitive 1500 runner. Ethan Strand is strong in North Carolina, which is having a phenomenal year at the distance program. But Gary Martin may surprise Ethan Strand. Even though he's number 8 and Strand is number 4, that's going to go out the window when they compete. The 5,000, I'm going to return to the ACC, and I think it's Parker Wolf, sort of the headliner in North Carolina, and David Malarkey of Florida State. That's 5 versus 6. Two top 8 guys nationally in one race. Again, shows you that the ACC is going to be a great meet, and I'll be there this weekend here in Atlanta. I'm going to lean towards Parker Wolf, but I think this is a great matchup. 5 and 6. We're gonna see possibly a new PR. If not, this will be a great indicator of how they both race against elite competition outdoors right now. Then moving to our third leg, we'll move to the jumps. some great jumping we're going to see this weekend. I look forward to it. As someone who loves track and field, the jumps is going to be hot. In the long jump, we're going to go to the SEC, and that's number one versus number five. At one point, it would be one versus two, especially preseason. That's Wayne Pinnick of Arkansas versus Malcolm Clemens of Florida. Pinnick has gotten the better of Clemens pretty much their entire career against each other. I think, Clemens being on his home field, he'll have extra motivation, but I think it's very clear you all are aware of how I feel about Wayne Pinnick. That dude is just super talented, and I think there's a 28-foot jump in him. I really do. If he doesn't jump 28 feet, I think he's going to have to be a 27-foot jumper to beat Clemens. I think Clemens will be on his A game. In the triple jump, we'll stay in the SEC, and it's Clemens' teammate, Sean Dixon Bowie of Florida, against Luke Brown of Kentucky. This is actually a rematch from indoors. Luke Brown won indoors in the SEC. I think the overall better season went to Bodie, even though he had a late start to his indoor season dealing with some injuries. Outdoors, he's been kind of a man on fire. He was number one for a while until the young man from Oklahoma took over. But this is two versus three. And I think we're going to see another 55-foot jump. And one of these two men will probably come out as number one. And it's a deep, deep field for the SEC. And pretty much every conference is a great, because you got one versus four in the Big 12. And in the ACC, Russell Robinson and Jeremiah Davis are going to go at it. And there's another teammate at Florida State. So you got three. But I think the biggest competition is going to be two versus three, because it was very different indoors. And I think outdoors it'll be a different story. The high jump will stay in the SEC again. You have Carter Bejoit of Texas A&M versus Romaine Beckford of Arkansas. And Mr. Beckford has been kind of quiet this outdoor season. He hasn't been the top guy. I think for obvious reasons, he's not rushing his season. Again, he's expecting to make Team Jamaica and be a medal contender for the Paris Olympics. I'm going to give Bejoit a little bit more credit because he's kind of come on strong. And Texas A&M is proving to a lot of people that they are an extremely competitive high jump school. They are great at developing great high jumpers. He's not the only great jumper they got. We know of the collegiate record holder, Lamar Diston. Here's another jumper they got, and we've not heard his name all season long, and here he is, ranked number 3 nationally, versus Romaine Beckford, who's number 4. It'll be a great SEC competition for the jumps. And then we move to our final anchor leg, which will be the throws and the multi-events. Unfortunately, on the men's side, I didn't really see any matchups that super intrigued me in the decathlon. I am curious to see what happens this weekend in the Big Ten, because you have Michigan State with those great decathletes. But when it comes to the decathlon, my expectation is that some of them will be doing more than just a decathlon. They'll be focusing on individual events to get more points for their teams. On the men's side of the throws, you have the shot put, which I think will be in the SEC where the competition will be the strongest. You have the top 3 shot putters. You have Tariq Robinson O'Hagan of Ole Miss, Christopher Licata, and Dylan Taggart, both of South Carolina. Yes, South Carolina is coming on strong and ready to go up against Ole Miss and Georgia in the throwing battle. And Florida, which hasn't had a great thrower. I mean, Kai Chang is going to do well, I think, in the discus, but it's really been Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Georgia as of late, and that's, I think, going to continue. And I think Tariq Robinson O'Hagan, with eyes on him, probably is feeling like an underwhelming one because Licata and Taggart, specifically Taggart, have already beaten him. He has the number 1 mark, but Taggart probably is going in with the most confidence. In the hammer, the Pac-12, you have Ron Hamilton, the number 1, versus Nicholas Policronio of USC, who is number 4. Wow, another top 5 matchup. And the Pac-12 has had great throwers over the years. NCAA champions, specifically from Cal, and Rowan Hamilton is clearly the next big star from that program. And then in the javelin, you have Mark Minicello of Georgia, number 1, versus Sam Hakens of Texas A&M, number 5. But also in that field nationally is, I believe, number 8 and number 9. So there's 4 top 10 guys in the SEC for the javelin. SEC is going to be a strong meet. And I hate to be this. It's SEC or nothing, because it's not. But the SEC is really the strongest conference, I think. And then I think it's the Big 12, and I think it's the ACC after that, and I think it's the Pac 12, and then I think, unfortunately, at the bottom is, the Big 10, where I'm from. Curious to see what happens in regards to the team rankings come Monday or Tuesday after this. Right now, we know on the men's side it's Florida and Texas A&M, and on the women's side it's LSU, Arkansas, and I also think Texas A&M on the women's side too. They're very strong. They have some great athletes. They're great in the relays. They've got some good runners. They're ready. This is one of those sneaky good Pat Henry's teams. It's not all about the sprinters and hurdlers. It's the complete package. So watch out for Texas A&M. It'll be a very good weekend. Um, I hope you enjoy the weekend. Have a great time. This is just the men's preview, and I think just with that alone, there's a lot of excitement already. So please enjoy. Be by your phones. If you are living near a conference championship, please go to it and enjoy. You have the MAC Conference Championship, Big Ten. You have the MEAC still going on. You have the American Athletic Conference, Conference USA, the Sun Belt. A lot of great conference championships this weekend. We're going to have a great conversation on Monday, but I'll see you in a minute. We're going to review the women's side, and that's equally competitive. So please like, subscribe, share, comment. I look forward to seeing your feedback and conversing with you. As always, thanks for your support.